Total War Warhammer 2 is the second game in the trilogy, and it's building off the successes of Total War Warhammer 1. We look at the whole new area of landmass to the west, and we explore the races therein, so High Elves, Lizardmen and Dark Elves. We got some very, very positive feedback from our decision to sort of really try and make the races play differently. So we've embraced that throughout the DLC for Warhammer 1, and we're doing even more for Warhammer 2.
So the typical process of getting a character to animation actually is quite long. So we start with a concept art of what the character will look like. That then gets modelled with all the polygons, and then my job is putting the movement and personality into that character. The elves have been an interesting challenge in itself because they are all humanoid units, so we have this extra challenge of how do we make them each feel and look different. Lizardmen has been a completely different experience than any other race so far. We tried doing mocap for them and we found that they were pushing too far into the human side, so we went much more animalistic.
The Lizardmen have these incredible glittering scaled armies of reptiles which start right down with your basic unit, which is the skink. And then you have the Saurus, who are much more powerful, sort of 8 feet of hulking reptilian muscle. And then you have more specialised units, so you have things like the pterodons, which are sort of flying units. You have carnosaurs, which are essentially T-Rexes that are occasionally tamed by the Lizardmen for battle, and stegodons, which act as mounts, and bastiladons as well, which are often outfitted with an array of sort of magical artillery. So on the battle side, we're looking to introduce more variety in Total War Warhammer 2, and one of the ways we're doing this is by examining sort of different and sometimes wilder new terrain types.
We've got very lush jungle, very beautiful but also very dangerous, deserts with all the hazards that entails, and all kinds of other environments. So it's really looking to get the flavour the Games Workshop have created in their fantasy setting into our game. So the key locations are Ulthuan, the home of the High Elves, Naggaroth, the home of the Dark Elves, Lustra, a jungle region, and the Southlands, which is a mixture of desert, jungle and other environments.
Bringing a fantasy location to life is pretty challenging. There's not much concept out for the landscapes, so we have to read through all the lore books and decipher all the text and make something awesomely crazy with it afterwards. For the Lizardmen, we have these big, heavy stone structures, but parts of them are floating by magic. For the Dark Elves, one of the key elements are the Black Spine Mountains, and they're surrounded by a large expanse of hardened lava, probably the most diverse area of the map that we've ever had.
So the Great Vortex, which hovers above Ulthuan, is absolutely integral to the storyline of Warhammer 2. Now the Vortex was forged in millennia past. There was a great chaos invasion called the Great Cataclysm. The Lizardmen, as the first and most ancient race, were the first to fight chaos, and they only just held on, but it was actually the High Elves who forged the Great Vortex and managed to sort of preserve the equilibrium of the world.
You can ignore the storyline, the narrative. You don't have to fight for the Vortex if you don't want. Sandbox gameplay is sacrosanct to Total War.
The player can go in any direction they want, and that's going to be enhanced this time because players can now conquer any territory they want.
We have 2 legendary lords per race, each with their own start position. You can play co-op multiplayer with the same race, and that creates all sorts of possibilities, and it's something the fans have been asking for. What we want people to feel at the end of Warhammer 2 is that I want them to feel they've had an incredible gameplay experience, which is fundamentally Total War and fundamentally Warhammer, but at the same time interesting, new, different and exciting right to the end.